Sue Wang is going to tell you about the future of storytelling. If you could do that. Just a brief note about Sue. She used to be an international finance lawyer, and now she started a small firm that helps startups. So here you go.
Hi, everyone. So I want to convince you of three things tonight. First, that the most famous work of the most famous Roman poet is a work of fanfic. Second, that retelling and remixing stories is part of our human nature. And finally, that Creative Commons is going to outcompete copyright. Can I get some slides? Well, I'll just start. So we think of fanfic as something very recent, something that is a product of the internet. And for those of you who don't know yet, fanfic is it's stuff written by fans. It's spin-offs, sequels, missing scenes, translations, film adaptations, anything that people write. And it is all copyright infringement. Some of it is good, a lot of it is bad. Seriously. Okay. So, anyway, fanfic actually goes back thousands of years. We think of it as something that's sort of from the Twilight crowd, or it comes from the Star Trek crowd back in the 70s. But it goes back all the way to Homer, all the way to the Odyssey and the Iliad, which is 3,000 years old. It's about the Trojan War. It's the oldest written thing in all of Western literature. And what happens is there's a beauty contest. Three goddesses want to know from the most beautiful young man on earth, which of them is the most beautiful goddess. Athena offers him wisdom. Hera tries to bribe him with power, and Venus bribes him successfully with the love of the most beautiful woman on earth. Unfortunately, she happens to be married to a king in Greece, so Helen runs off and becomes Helen of Troy, and the Greeks think to themselves, all right, game on. So they bring their dream team, headed by Achilles, Agamemnon, Ajax, people that you know. And on the other side is Hector. And for 10 years, these people have the most epic battle in the history of mythology. And for 10 years, they get nowhere. They fight back and forth, but Troy's behind these really strong city walls. And finally, just when they're thinking, hey, maybe we should just get the hell out of Iraq, Odysseus says, let's pretend like we're leaving. We'll build our wooden horse. We'll leave some soldiers in it, and then the Trojans fall for it. The Trojans, oh, there are my slides. back. There's Achilles sort of doing a dance move. So the Trojans fall for it, and they bring the Greek soldiers right into their city gates, hence the term Trojan horse, and the Greeks burn Troy to the ground. Now, fast forward 1,000 years, and we reach the Roman era. So while Jesus is literally walking the earth and saying, give unto Caesar that which belongs to Caesar, Caesar is saying to Virgil, hey, Virgil, give unto me a national Roman epic. And Virgil's a big fanboy, so he thinks, I'm going to pick up right where Homer left off. So Homer wrote about the Trojan War, and then the Odyssey talks about how Odysseus gets back home. And Virgil thinks, well, there's this other guy, Hector's right-hand man, Aeneas. What happened to him? So he makes up the story about how on the day that Troy falls, Aeneas leads a ship full of refugees, refugee Trojans, and they go on this epic sea voyage that ends in Italy. Aeneas has gods and monsters, he's got tragic love, a journey to the underworld, and he becomes one of the forefathers of Rome. It's a hit. You can still read the Aeneid, especially if you take Latin classes. Shakespeare, also a big fanboy. So if you look on sources such as Wikipedia, you can find the source of almost all of Shakespeare's plays. So Romeo and Juliet comes from Pyramus and Thisbe, a tragic story about two young people who love each other, but their families hate each other, and they both end up dead. Shakespeare makes this explosive. He retells it because Pyramus and Thisbe were 20 and 18 years old. Romeo and Juliet, in case you didn't know, are 16 and 13 going on 14 years old. And they met on Sunday night. They're dead by Thursday morning. And the whole thing is just explosive and gorgeous. And then Romeo and Juliet gets remade into West Side Story at a time in the 1950s when urban gangs are first becoming a real problem in the public consciousness. And also it's got this great explosive physicality. So, as you can see, we've always been remixing and retelling. It's something that is just part of our human nature. The only difference is now we have copyright law. Copyright law started about 200 years ago, and it started out lasting for only 14 years. Now it lasts the lifetime of the author plus 70 years. So anything before 1922 is good. Anything after, you'll have to wait 3 internet epochs for it to come in. This is Russian Harry Potter, or shall I say Tanya Grotter, a Moscow orphan who just has a lot in common. But there are 13 of these books. They start out very derivative, and then they sort of hit their own stride, and they draw on Russian mythology. And why shouldn't Russian children have something of their own? So we're in a historical anomaly. Like right now we have lawsuits, a lot of Harry Potter lawsuits, in fact. But I think that Creative Commons will outcompete. And what Creative Commons lets you do is voluntarily, on a very simple a la carte basis, give up some of your copyright rights. Now, why would anyone do that? Because it will make you rich and famous. So copyright runs against the grain of the way that we tell stories. And what Cory Doctorow, who gives away his books and lets people do anything other than sell it, this lets, say, one of the 14 million Twilight fans, perhaps, do a werewolf adaptation or something. And if it becomes a runaway bestseller, the first time that happens, everybody will think it's a fluke or a fairy tale or just something crazy. The second time it happens, everyone will start talking about our writers becoming owners of franchises. What's going on? And the third time it happens, it will just be part of the new normal, which is the old normal. Thank you.